And here I am, everyone, with the last and final poem from Lewis. Oh, man. The sixth in my I See Things in Blue series. This one is also short, and I'm absolutely not going to explain it. The title is going to give it away, so it just doesn't make sense. And if you've already bought the book, you literally hear because you've already read it. So it's like, no, most of this ramble is for people who end up finding me organically, which, if I keep them all private, will only be because the people who bought the book shared the links. Because once the link's out there, there's nothing I can do about that. Even if they're private, if I share the link, you can watch it. And so, yeah, this one is called Sun. The soft touch upon my face, the lovely feeling on my chest, that loving look into my eyes, that tingly feeling through my body, the cuddling feeling in my arms, my sighs of love so sweet, the smile laughed upon my face, every morning that I wake, the overwhelming joy I feel. Nothing in this world can compare to your sweet and loving stare as you rest upon my chest and smile, my precious baby boy. Um, I know that I wrote this one for sure at that age, because one of the English teachers I had at the time actually asked me if I had a child. I was like, nah, I do not have a child. And even then, it was kind of like a firm. I think my lofty ideas of having a family were already waning before my 20s, because I wanted a few. And then the older I got, it's like, nah, I don't think I want to live that life. It's not for me, regardless of how much I actually genuinely love kids, um, which is very interesting within itself. But I don't know. It's a, it's a very touchy subject, I guess. Um, and I think people make it more of a thing than it should be. Like, even if I think about it, when I see other, couples and stuff, I'm like, I'm not gonna ask, whatever, you know. I'll have my answer if they happen to have a child. It's not that big of a deal. I genuinely don't care, but I find people do care, and it's really weird. So many. I'm like, what if they want to have any? Like, why are you even asking? Just let them, live. Um, but this one is here because it's literally about having boys, and Cap and Lewis has three, including Dario. He has four, and like I said about the piece before it, fatherhood is just amazing to him. He enjoys every single piece of it. He loves, absolutely loves, being a father and being in a loving relationship with someone who was there for him when they didn't really have that much money when she was a student, and he was hoping he could do a good job with his students so that he could at least do his share. And Dario was in that first batch, like he was really just starting at that point and doing a recital with other um, people who only say had a little bit of students at the time as well, just to put themselves out there and see what would come of it. And luckily for Lewis, something did come out of it. He managed to make a solid stay-at-home job without having to kind of like join teaching school or go out into the public sector or anything like that. He managed to, through his whole life, continue to have enough students to make it worthwhile and settle into being like he's a stay-at-home dad. Like, he literally makes sure that his children follow the stay-at-home curriculum, and they have a whole room in the house that is the classroom. And with online courses and all those types of things, he settles in, helps them learn their new that's what he does. It's off page, but there are some times when what's happening, because he talks to them like, please just sit down and do your like, I might have said homework, which doesn't make sense because they're homeschooled, but just sit down and finish your work, like things like that. So he's actively involved in making sure that they follow the course, the plan, the curriculum, and all of that. And I wanted it to be that. I didn't want the music teaching thing to really take off and just be so extra super successful. I wanted his wife, but not wife, to be the breadwinner of the house, and him to spend the most of the times with the kids. And for it to actually be funny to them sometimes, especially in one scene when they're getting ready for church. And she quite literally says, I don't know how you do it. Because her boys are just a hot mess of unkempt, like untied ties, and you're gonna have to get in the car and put your shoes on in there because we're not gonna be late for church. Just regular boys, and Dario is not that. And she does not shy away from saying that. Like, I think deep down inside, she wishes, she had a more cleaner and put together son like Dario, as much as she loves her boys. But I feel that for her every now and then. And that was intentional because Lewis's book it deals with the darkest parts of Dario. And their family dynamic brings a lot of laughs. And it was intentional because I knew what the subject matter would be here. And his son is the last poem here because he is effectively Dario's father. And secondly, he's not only Dario's father, and he's done this parenthood thing 3 times. Um, and at the end of the book, he has, full adult children for a hot minute. I think only the youngest one is probably about to leave high school. Um, no, he's younger than that because Dario's 17 when he goes back to him at the end of Lewis's book. So he's still in school. But there's a little fun dynamic there with the families. And so that's why Son is here. And why is the last one? I got lost there. I had somewhere to go when I was talking about their age, but I lost it. And so it doesn't make sense to me anymore that I said it because I couldn't figure out where I was going with it, um, which is not that far off base for me. Um, but yeah, I like this one. Um, and it's fun to read because it's just 3 lines per stanza, and I can kind of get into that rhythm. The soft touch upon my face, that lovely feeling on my chest, that loving look into my eyes. And I can, this is the only one that doesn't have three, is the last one because of my precious baby boy. So it's got five. Those are the last 2 lines. But yeah, this one's nice. And I like that the last 3 poems in this one, because you've got more than 3 actually. I keep touching the mouse, but I forgot I don't have space because I'm using the circle light. Yeah, it's sacrifice, and then you fabricate me, then creation, then sun. I like that they start pushing towards, even though they're still talking about the depressive themes, what Dario and Lewis's relationship actually is. So they're all kind of heavy, the first ones, and then I take that heavy and I push it into another direction, which was intentional. Do I remember my intent all the time since these were poems and they were a late addition to this book for a page count? Not necessarily, but when I read them, but I just get triggered. I'm like, okay, now I remember why I kept you and not the other 50 poems. Um, but not much more to say there. I made it to the end, and what time is it? I think I'm willing to push until 10 o'clock, and it's 9:30. So I'll punch out a few more. Um, but as per usual, if you made it this far, thanks for stopping by.